You know, usually when we face a problem today, there's this underlying expectation of mental brute force.
Right, yeah.
It's like we are constantly trying to, engineer our own lives. You hit a wall, you read 10 books, you optimize your morning routine, you try to life hack your way out of it.
Oh, absolutely. It's treated as an algorithm. Like if you just input the correct data, or if you just think harder or plan better, you will somehow fix your own existential dread. I mean, we really love the illusion of total control, and we lean on our intellect as if it's an impenetrable shield.
We do. But then you step into the world of certain ancient spiritual texts, and suddenly that whole optimization engine just stalls out entirely. Because we aren't just looking at a historical document today for our deep dive. We are looking at a profound blueprint that essentially tells us to stop the mental gymnastics completely.
Which is so refreshing, honestly.
It really is. We're exploring a remarkably reflective composition by Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the fifth Sikh guru, and it's set in what is called Raag Bilaaval, specifically the fifth Mehla, second house. Now, for you listening, a raag isn't just a simple melody or a tune.
No, not at all.
Think of it as a highly specific musical framework designed to evoke a very particular mood, like an emotional landscape. It's meant to shift your internal state before you even process the words. And the mission of this text is an absolute dismantling of our illusion of control.
It really pulls the rug right out from under the ego.
Exactly. It points us toward letting go of our exhausting intellect and finding an ultimate unshakable sanctuary. So, if your brain feels like it has 50 tabs open right now and the fan is running hot, this is exactly what you need.
A perfect description of modern life, really.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Okay.
Because before this text reveals how to find peace, it first diagnoses what is actively blocking it. And the diagnosis is, well, us.
Yes.
Our own overactive intellects.
And the opening lines don't ease you into it either. The text immediately declares, "You are the support of my mind, O my beloved. You are the support of my mind." And then it delivers this sharp, contrasting warning.
Right, the warning about cleverness.
Exactly. It says, "All other clever tricks are useless, O beloved. You alone are my protector."
That phrase, clever tricks, the original word there is siaanapaa, really jumps out to me. Because we live in an era where clever tricks aren't just common, they are highly rewarded.
Oh, we build entire industries around them.
We do. We are obsessed with outsmarting the system, with overthinking every possible variable so we don't get hurt, so we don't fail, so we don't look foolish. But reading this raises a huge question. Is the text telling us to just stop thinking entirely, like to become completely passive in our own lives? Or is it pointing to a very specific kind of ego-driven mental gymnastics that it's warning against?
What's fascinating here is the vital distinction between practical, everyday intellect and the spiritual ego. I mean, the text isn't suggesting you shouldn't use your brain to, say, design a bridge or negotiate a contract or safely cross the street.
Right, you still have to look both ways.
Exactly. It is saying these clever tricks are useless specifically for the protection of your soul. The text uses the word tech, meaning a pillar or an ultimate support. True support comes from surrender to the divine, not from your own strategic maneuvering.
Because when it comes to the deepest human fears, like our own mortality or profound grief, or just that heavy existential weight we all carry, your intellect simply cannot save you. You can't spreadsheet your way out of mortality.
Precisely. The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. When we use our cleverness to try and shield ourselves from the vulnerabilities of just being human, we don't actually protect ourselves. We just end up building these invisible cages.
That is such a good way to put it, cages.
Right. We obsessively calculate future scenarios,
Sure.
trying to pre-solve pain that hasn't even happened yet. And the result, we get completely trapped in our own thoughts. The text is offering a way out of that cage by saying, put down the tools. They aren't working for this.
Right.
The divine is the only true protector. Everything else is just noise that makes you heavier and more tired.
That reframes the entire concept of self-reliance. I mean, relying solely on yourself for emotional or spiritual protection is the heaviest burden you can carry. It's like treading water in the middle of the ocean while stubbornly holding onto a boulder just because you built the boulder yourself.
Yes, that's a perfect image.
But if our own clever tricks and mental strategies inevitably fail us, where do we turn? The composition doesn't just leave us stranded in the water without our tools. It transitions from diagnosing the problem to revealing the exact catalyst for change. And that catalyst is encountering the guru.
The focus shifts entirely to this profound encounter. The text states, one who meets with the perfect true guru, O beloved, that humble person is enraptured.
The word enraptured carries so much weight there. It implies being completely swept up, like taken entirely out of your own ego. It goes on to describe the divine guru as a fruitful form that is overflowing with all powers.
It equates the guru directly with the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, describing this presence as the transcendent Lord who is ever present forever and ever. It blurs the line completely between the guide and the ultimate destination.
It does. In this context, the perfect true guru, satigur pooraa, is not just a wise historical teacher offering good advice. It is the physical and spiritual embodiment of the divine's infinite power and presence.
Right, it's much bigger than a teacher.
When you meet that presence, when you truly perceive it, the reaction isn't just a polite intellectual agreement. It is rapture. It's overwhelming bliss. Why? Because you finally realize, on a cellular level, that you are supported by something overflowing with infinite power, which means you don't have to rely on your own limited, exhausting cleverness anymore. You can finally exhale.
But I have to push back a little here, or at least ask for some clarity on how this actually works. Because there's a line that feels like a potential paradox regarding grace.
Okay, let's hear it.
It says, "He alone serves the guru, O beloved, unto whom the Lord becomes merciful." Now, if the guru is ever present forever and overflowing with power, why is it framed as something that only happens when the Lord is merciful? Like, is this connection a prerequisite we have to earn by being good enough? Or is it just a random lightning bolt of grace that hits some people and skips others?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to fundamentally reframe how we think about mercy and grace. I mean, in our normal human terms, we view mercy transactionally. Like a judge in a courtroom, if I show remorse, the judge shows me mercy.
Or we view it as a lottery system where some win and some lose.
Exactly. But in this spiritual framework, the text has already established that the Supreme Lord is ever present. It is already everywhere, at all times.
So it's like the radio station is already broadcasting at full volume. The signal is live.
The broadcast never stops. The mercy isn't the divine suddenly deciding to show up for you or deciding to turn the transmitter on. The mercy is the lifting of the veil of your own cleverness so that you can finally perceive the broadcast that has been playing the entire time.
Okay, but how does that actually happen? How does the veil lift? Because if my clever tricks are the problem, but my intellect is the only tool I know how to use, how do I get out of my own way?
Well, when the Lord becomes merciful, it means the conditions in your life, your karma, your spiritual readiness, your experiences have aligned in such a way that your ego finally cracks. Think about how this happens in real life. Sometimes it takes hitting rock bottom.
Right.
Sometimes a person's carefully constructed optimization completely fails them during a crisis, like a severe illness or a profound loss. The intellect runs out of answers. And in that terrifying moment of having zero clever tricks left, the ego shatters. Or, conversely, it can happen through an experience of profound awe, like standing under a canopy of stars and realizing you are not the center of the universe. The ego cracks just enough to let the light in. In that space of total surrender, you suddenly recognize the ever-present guru. It is a profound realization of what already is, not a transaction you earned.
That fundamentally changes the feeling of the text. It's not about jumping up endlessly to try and reach the divine. It's about stopping the jumping so you can finally feel that you're already standing on solid ground.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
But the composition makes a very clear point next. This realization, this rapture, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. You don't just figure this out sitting isolated in a cave on a mountaintop somewhere. The text firmly roots this spiritual illumination in community.
Yes, the Satsangat, the Society of the Saints. This is where the text moves from the internal realization to the external environment.
The focus shifts outward beautifully. The author says, "I live by hearing, hearing of those who know their God." And they describe how these people contemplate the Lord's name, chant the Lord's name, and have their minds completely imbued with it. And then there's this incredible prayer Nanak offers.
I am your servant. I beg to serve your humble servants. By the karma of perfect destiny, I do this.
It represents an intense, almost desperate longing for proximity, like proximity to those who are already attuned to that divine frequency.
Absolutely.
Which makes perfect sense if you think about how we actually learn and adapt as human beings.
Yeah.
It makes me think of trying to learn a complex new language. If you try to learn a language purely from a textbook, which is the equivalent of relying on those clever tricks and your isolated intellect, you will constantly struggle.
Oh, you'll overthink everything.
Exactly. You'll overthink the grammar. You'll hesitate before every sentence. You'll just feel exhausted. But if you drop the textbook and just totally immerse yourself in a room full of native speakers, everything changes. You start to absorb the rhythm, the flow, the accent, almost without consciously trying. The Sangat is like total immersion with native speakers of the divine.
That is a perfect analogy. The nervous system literally regulates itself to match the environment. When you immerse yourself in a community whose minds are deeply imbued with the divine name, you are caught in their spiritual gravity.
But I do wonder about the hierarchy of the prayer here. The author specifically begs to serve the humble servants. Why that intense focus? If you've realized the power of the Supreme Lord, wouldn't the ultimate goal just be a direct VIP line to the Creator? Why route your devotion through serving other flawed human beings?
Well, the desire for a VIP line to the Creator is, ironically, the ultimate clever trick of the ego.
Oh, wow.
It's the spiritual ego sneaking in the back door, whispering, I am special enough to bypass everyone else. I am spiritually advanced. But remember, the core diagnosis from the very beginning. The fundamental problem is our ego, our self-reliance, our belief in our own distinct cleverness. Serving the humble servants of the divine is the absolute antidote to that ego.
Because you can't hold on to your pride while you are washing someone else's feet, so to speak.
Precisely. You cannot genuinely serve the humble servants while simultaneously maintaining your own arrogance and intellectual superiority. It forces you to bow. It forces a physical and mental yielding. And in that bowing, in that total immersion within the society of the saints, the text explains the mechanism of illumination. It says, they contemplate the immaculate ambrosial name and their minds are illuminated. The illumination of the mind, that inner light we are all searching for, is portrayed here as a collective experience. It is amplified by shared devotion.
It's a shared resonance. The text even specifies that those who dwell in this society are very fortunate, and that through this humble service, they obtain the blessed vision or darshan of the divine. The true seeing becomes accessible because the ego has been entirely dismantled through serving others. Which brings us to what feels like the ultimate promise of this blueprint.
Yes, the climax of the text.
Because this immersion in the Sadh Sangat and the contemplation of the divine name, it doesn't just promise to make you a slightly calmer person with a better perspective. It leads to a radical sanctuary that completely defies human logic.
It defies it completely. The promises made in the concluding sections of the composition are absolute, and they target the deepest roots of human suffering.
The text says, "The pains of birth and death are eradicated, O beloved, and the fear of the messenger of death is ended." Let's just hold on that for a second. The fear of the messenger of death. That is the unseen engine behind almost all human anxiety, isn't it?
Oh, undeniably.
The fear of the end. The fear of oblivion. The fear of running out of time. And the text says this fear is just ended, completely eradicated. But then it gets into what I think is the most surprising, evocative imagery in the entire piece regarding how this redemption actually works.
Right. It says, who can know your glorious virtues? Those who sing them are saved, and those who listen to them are saved. All their sins are erased.
Yes, and then it delivers this line. You save the beasts, demons, and fools, and even stones are carried across. Okay, let's look closely at that. Beasts, demons, and fools. That makes narrative sense as a metaphor for heavily flawed beings, people who are governed purely by animal instincts, people who are actively destructive, or people who are just stubbornly ignorant. A spiritual text saying those people can be saved is, well, par for the course.
Right, standard.
But saving stones, I mean, are we talking about literal rocks being carried across a river? Or is this the ultimate metaphor for something much deeper?
This raises an important question about the poetic brilliance and the theological depth of Guru Arjan Dev Ji's composition. To understand the mechanism here, we have to look at the nature of a stone. What is it? It is the most inanimate, unfeeling, heavy, and unyielding object imaginable. A stone sinks.
It does.
That is its singular nature. It has zero inherent buoyancy. It does not have the capacity to chant the divine name. It cannot perform humble service in the satsang, and it certainly cannot feel rapture.
It's entirely dead weight. It contributes nothing to its own salvation.
Exactly. So if a stone can be carried across the turbulent, terrifying ocean of human existence purely by the power of the divine name, then it proves a massive theological point.
Yeah.
The redemptive power of the divine is absolute, limitless, and entirely independent of the object being saved. It has nothing to do with the inherent buoyancy or the cleverness of the object. It has everything to do with the unmatched strength of the vessel carrying it. Metaphorically, we are talking about the reality of hardened human hearts.
That completely shifts how I'm reading this.
Think about the times in your own life, or consider the people you know, where the human heart has become so deeply traumatized, so intensely cynical, or so utterly entrenched in its own ego that it literally feels like it has turned to stone.
Yeah.
It feels incapable of absorbing love. It feels incapable of experiencing grace. It just sinks. The text is making a radical, universal promise here. Absolutely no human heart, no matter how hardened, no matter how cold or unyielding it has become, is beyond saving. The sanctuary of the divine is powerful enough to carry even the heaviest, most petrified parts of ourselves across the water.
That is genuinely staggering because
Yeah.
it speaks to such a universal human experience. We all have those petrified parts of ourselves, the parts we've hardened just to survive a difficult world, the parts where all our clever tricks and life hacks failed us miserably, so we just walled them off and let them turn to stone so they wouldn't hurt anymore.
Exactly right.
And the natural human assumption is that those parts are too heavy. We think they disqualify us from peace. We think they will drag us down to the bottom. But the text says no, even the stones are carried across. It's a sanctuary that doesn't demand you perfectly fix yourself before you enter. You just have to drop your defenses and enter.
Which perfectly aligns with the closing sentiment of the composition. Slave Nanak seeks your sanctuary. He is forever and ever a sacrifice to you. It is a declaration of complete surrender to that sanctuary. No more clever tricks. No more exhausting mental heavy lifting. No more trying to engineer salvation. Just yielding entirely to the power that can float stones.
Let's tie this whole beautiful journey together for everyone listening. We started by looking at this profoundly reflective composition by Guru Arjan Dev Ji, which diagnosed our core modern problem perfectly, centuries before the modern era. Our endless reliance on our own exhausting cleverness, the mental gymnastics we constantly perform, trying to build intellectual fortresses to protect ourselves from the pain and vulnerability of existence.
And we explored the deeply spiritual solution, recognizing the futility of those tricks and dropping them so that the veil lifts, allowing us to finally perceive the ever-present perfect true guru, the very embodiment of the divine's power, which has been broadcasting its support the entire time.
We saw that we aren't meant to do this alone on an island. It requires the profound humility found in the Satsangat, the Society of the Saints, a place where we immerse ourselves like learning a new language, living by hearing, and actively dismantling our egos by serving those who are already attuned to the divine frequency.
Which ultimately leads to a sanctuary so powerful, so absolute, that it literally eradicates the root fear of death itself. A grace so boundless that it doesn't just save the actively flawed and the foolish, but has the sheer strength to carry the most hardened, petrified, stone-like hearts across the water to ultimate peace.
It really is a complete inversion of how we normally operate day to day. I mean, we are taught from a young age to be the optimization engine, the relentless problem solver, the architect of our own safety. But this text invites us to put down the heavy lifting, to realize the sanctuary is already built and we just need to stop guarding the door.
You just have to stop trying to intellectually outmaneuver the universe and allow yourself to be supported by it.
Which leaves us with a lot to chew on. For you listening right now, I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to ponder on your own today. Take a real, honest look at your own inner landscape. What specific clever tricks or mental strategies are you relying on right now that are secretly just exhausting you? What emotional spreadsheets are you maintaining that aren't actually keeping you safe, but are just keeping you trapped? And more importantly, what hardened stones in your own life or mind do you mistakenly believe are simply too heavy to ever be carried across to peace? Because if this incredible blueprint tells us anything, it's that absolutely nothing is too heavy when you finally stop trying to carry it all yourself.